All right, so Glenn Greenwald gives another breakdown on his breaking points. I think is his Rumble program, and it's great stuff. It's very refreshing after the glom of everything else. But he's stuck, and he's stuck because he's rushing out to cover a Jewish BBC journalist who is in turn covering a West Bank fanatical group trying to get Jews to move into the West Bank. And he confronts the woman who's spearheading this. The BBC guy confronts her and says, "You're a supremacist." And she says, she pauses and then she laughs and she says, "No, I'm not. I'm just for my people." And the confusion is on the one hand is you have these extraordinary supporters of Zionism in America. The religious affiliations I really don't care to go into because I don't know them. I don't understand them, the end of days and all that sort of stuff. But there is another reason for this strong identification, which nobody seems to be able to identify. And it comes at the end of Glenn's thing where he's saying that, this is Americans are criticizing the Jews for what they're doing about their ostensible homeland. And my question or my observation is, Glenn, what homeland, well, he's living in Brazil, and what homeland were you born? Was that it was not your country. And there you have the reason for the identification and the affiliation between the United States and Israel. They are the same. They are founded on the stealing of a country. So now that Glenn seems to be comfortable with the notion of North America as being a European country. And so his argument about Israel is almost completely moot. Netanyahu, who I believe has said, "How dare you criticize us for doing what you did in the 16th century, 17th century, 18th century?" It's you don't have a leg to stand on. So there is some bizarre relationship between what's his name, Tom Cotton and Chuck Hawley or somebody Hawley, these great Zionists, and I'm going, yeah, it's the same cause. The European has as much right to the continents of the Americas, as which is two continents, as Israel has to Palestine. So the causes are together. What will Netanyahu do when Gaza is over, if it's ever over, resolved somehow, I guess? Ash Sarkar of Navarra Media talks to Kenneth Roth, another of the cuddlies, I'd never heard of him before, who make Hamas an extreme and normalize Israeli colonial atrocity and belligerence, which is exactly what America's doing. There is no equivalence, he says, and this attitude is reflected in the disproportion and is stupid and pointless. He's an American. His accent is suffocating. Not all American accents are so, but this one is designed so, a sort of passive-aggressive smothering. The question is, what will America and Europe do after Gaza? The question is, what will America and Europe do after Gaza? It will be almost impossible on the evidence. They are incapable of confession. So it goes in that Applebaum world. The demands of virtue narcissism are great, dears. I hear a lot all over. Well, yes, terrible things have been done in the name of religion, but that's not really the fault of the religion. It's the fault of the flawed humans. End quote, says the religion. That's your problem. You've got the power on high, and then we're all flawed children running around. That's your issue. That's your issue. It is the fault of the religion. Okay, how long do you need to iron out the kinks, dears? How many epochs and eons do you need to iron out the kinks? We are all religions of peace. Well, then on the evidence, you're absolutely crazy. America, similarly, well, the Constitution is the greatest covenant between the governed and power ever written. It ensures this long list of rights. It is the greatest law book guaranteeing more freedom than anybody has ever had in the history of the world, except for Cyrus the Great and his cylinder for the Persians 600 years BC. Gasp. In America, yes, you get all this if you're rich, which was indeed the original intent. Jefferson, those people were not poor people, which was going to depend, as they saw it, that a workforce that needed little and was going to die young before they needed health care anyway. Remember, protest if you will, the greatest inequality in the history of history, terrible health care if you're not rich, and the future getting worse. And there is no point in talking about foreign policy, but in both cases, the reason is the same. We like magical thinking. We believe in documents, in stories, in books, not in actual behavior, not in the human condition. I can tell you why. The books and documents do not reflect the human condition. They are blueprints for some ridiculous, rather dull ideal, for a human that never existed. They are ancestors of AI. The books are exactly not the truth. The good man, according to the Constitution, is a slaveholder. Remember, we believe, despite all the evidence, and I said all of it, the best you can do is find someone somewhere far away that are worse off. That's our study. It doesn't matter that they are or are not worse off. The myth will do, because it is vital to our own delusion of ourselves. A culture that thinks itself good has to be better than. It follows. Better than someone else. Cue the Chinese. Cue the Russians. 2 minor suggestions. It is hopeless. Go back to calling the Department of Defense the Department of War, because that is what it is, and drop Deuteronomy from the canon if you dare. Canon. C-A-N-N-O-N. Oh, and insist, if you are going to talk God in the halls of power, suggest the congregants, insist the congregants read their scripture and don't just show up to hear you speak it. That's an older tradition. I would suggest you try reading the Constitution yourselves too. I know the faithful giving you all ears makes you feel good, but it makes your belief system ridiculous. The Sermon on the Mount is liberal talking points. It's about time you have that argument with your fascists. You should have known. They didn't know before you used the sermon in your sermon. You're also caught up in being leaders. U.S. support for Israel is not compassion, it is identification. All colonials look to us as an example. Bury my heart in Gaza.